The ultimatum Captain Torres stood at the observation deck of the horizon's edge, watching the stars drift past in their eternal silence. She had spent 15 years in deep space, mapping uncharted systems and establishing humanity's first footholds beyond the Sol system. The work was slow, methodical, and peaceful. That peace was about to end. "Captain, we have incoming vessels on long-range sensors," Lieutenant James Park announced from the bridge. 7 ships, unknown configuration. They're not responding to standard hails. Eleanor moved quickly from the observation deck to her command chair. The bridge crew worked with practiced efficiency around her, pulling up sensor data and running identification protocols. What appeared on the main screen made her breath catch. The ships were massive, each one dwarfing the horizon's edge by a factor of 10. Their hulls bore designs that seemed to flow like liquid metal, pulsing with energy signatures humanity had never encountered. They moved in perfect formation, appearing from faster-than-light travel with a precision that spoke of technology far beyond human capabilities. "They're hailing us now, Captain," Park said. "Audio and visual." "Put it through." The screen filled with 7 distinct alien forms, each representing a species Elena had never imagined existed. At the center stood a tall being with crystalline skin that refracted light in rainbow patterns. Its voice, when it spoke, resonated with harmonics that the translation software struggled to interpret. "Vessel of Earth, I am Archon Vortex of the Galactic Federation. We represent the civilized species of this galaxy. Your kind has been observed. We come with a message that will determine your future." Elena kept her expression neutral, though her mind raced. First contact. This was the moment humanity had dreamed about for centuries. But something in Vortex's tone carried a weight that felt more like a threat than a greeting. "I am Captain Elena Torres of the United Earth Space Command. We welcome peaceful contact with other civilizations." "Peace," Vortex repeated, the words seeming to amuse the other aliens on the screen. "That is precisely why we are here. The Galactic Federation has maintained peace across 10,000 star systems for 12,000 of your years. We have watched your species emerge from your primitive world and begin spreading across the stars. Your expansion must now be regulated." Elena felt a cold sensation spreading through her chest. "Regulated?" Another alien stepped forward, this one reptilian with scales that shifted colors. "Humanity breeds too quickly. You consume resources without consideration for balance. You develop weapons before wisdom. In 3 of your generations, you have gone from atmospheric flight to interstellar travel. Such rapid growth is destabilizing." "We have committed no acts of aggression against anyone," Elena said carefully. "Not yet," a third alien interjected, this one resembling an enormous insect with multifaceted eyes. "But your history is written in blood. Your own species has waged war upon itself for its entire existence. We will not allow such violence to spread across the galaxy." Vortex raised a hand, silencing the others. "The Federation Council has deliberated on the human question. We offer you a choice. You will accept our guidance. Your military expansion will cease immediately. Your population growth will be limited to replacement rates only. Your colonies beyond your home system will accept Federation oversight. You will surrender your weapons research and submit to our inspection protocols. In return, we will provide you with limited access to Federation technology and ensure your species' survival under our protection." Elena's hands gripped the armrests of her chair. Every instinct screamed that this was wrong. "And if we refuse? Then we will implement corrective measures to ensure galactic stability. You have 7 of your days to convey this message to your leadership and provide an answer." The transmission ended abruptly. The 7 massive ships remained in position, a silent threat hanging in the void. Elena immediately opened a priority channel to Earth. The light-speed delay meant her message would take hours to reach home, and the response would take hours more. But humanity needed to know what was coming. 6 days later, the response came from the United Earth Assembly. Elena read the message 3 times, feeling a mix of pride and terror. "To the Galactic Federation, humanity declines your offer. We will not submit to external control of our population, our government, or our future. We seek peaceful coexistence with all species, but we will not surrender our sovereignty. We propose alternative arrangements for mutual cooperation and cultural exchange. We await your response." Elena knew how the Federation would interpret that message. She had seen their contempt for humanity in every word they spoke. They viewed humans as dangerous children who needed to be controlled or eliminated. She did not have to wait long for confirmation. The attack came without warning during what should have been a routine supply run to Kepler 186f, a mining colony that provided rare Earth elements for Earth's growing fleet. Helena was 3 systems away when the distress call came through. "This is Kepler 186f. We are under attack. Multiple hostile vessels. They're firing on civilian centers. Oh God, they're not targeting the defenses. They're hitting the residential sections. We need immediate..." The transmission cut to static. Elena ordered the Horizon's Edge to maximum speed, but she knew they would arrive too late. The colony was 12 light hours away. By the time they reached the system, it was over. Kepler 186f's orbital stations were debris. The colony domes on the surface had been systematically destroyed. 3,000 people, miners and their families, scientists and support staff, gone in a matter of hours. "Captain, we are detecting Federation vessels departing the system," Park reported, his voice hollow. "They're not even trying to hide their signatures." Eleanor stared at the ruins below. The Federation had not come to negotiate. They had come to deliver a lesson in obedience. The week-long deadline had been theater, a pretense of civilization before they did what they had always intended to do. "Get me Earth Command," Elena said quietly. "All channels. Maximum priority." When Admiral Chen's face appeared on the screen, Elena could see that Earth had already received word of the attack. The Admiral looked 10 years older than the last time they had spoken. "Captain Torres, the Assembly has convened in emergency session. The Federation sent us a message an hour ago. They claim Kepler 186f was a military installation conducting illegal weapons research. They're calling it a justified strike against a legitimate target." "That's a lie," Elena said, her voice tight with controlled rage. "I visited that colony 3 months ago. It was families, Admiral, children. The youngest victim was 2 years old." Chen nodded slowly. "We know. The Federation is trying to control the narrative, but we have the colony's communications logs. They show exactly what happened. The Federation targeted civilian centers deliberately. They wanted to kill as many people as possible to terrify us into submission. What are our orders?" "The Assembly has issued a declaration. We will not submit to the Federation's demands. We will not allow them to control our future or murder our people without consequence. As of this moment, humanity is at war." Elena felt the weight of those words settle over her. War against an enemy that had mastered space travel when humans were still living in caves. War against 7 species with technology centuries beyond Earth's capabilities. War against a force that had maintained dominance over the galaxy for 12,000 years. "Admiral, we are not ready for this fight." "No," Chen agreed. "We are not. But we don't have a choice. The Federation has shown us what happens if we submit. They will control every aspect of our existence. They will decide how many children we can have, where we can live, what we can learn. And based on what they did to Kepler 186f, they will kill us whenever it suits their purpose." Elena looked at her crew. They were young, most of them. They had joined Earth's space program to explore, to discover, to build something beautiful among the stars. Now they would have to learn to fight. "What are our orders?" she asked again. "Captain Torres, you are hereby promoted to the rank of Commodore and given command of the 3rd Expeditionary Fleet. Your mission is to organize our forces in the outer colonies and prepare defensive positions. The Federation thinks they have already won. They think we will panic and surrender. We need to show them they're wrong." After the transmission ended, Elena stood alone on the bridge, looking out at the stars. Somewhere out there, the Federation was celebrating what they believed was a decisive victory. They had struck hard and fast, demonstrating their power and their willingness to use it, but they had made a crucial mistake. They had assumed humanity would respond like other species they had encountered. They assumed humans would recognize superior force and submit rationally to the inevitable. The Federation had forgotten something important about humanity. Humans had spent 10,000 years fighting each other. Every continent had seen wars. Every generation had known conflict. Humanity understood war not as an abstract concept, but as a fundamental part of their history. The Federation had known peace for 12,000 years. They had forgotten what it meant to fight for survival. They had forgotten what desperate people could do when their backs were against the wall. Helena activated the fleet-wide communication system. Her ships were scattered across 3 star systems, but they would all receive her message within hours. All personnel, this is Commodore Torres. By now you have all heard about Kepler 186F. You know what the Federation has done. You know what they demand of us. I will not lie to you. We face an enemy with superior technology and overwhelming numbers. By every rational calculation, we should lose this war. She paused, choosing her next words carefully. But wars are not won by rational calculations alone. They are won by people who refuse to give up, by people who find ways to fight that their enemies never expect, by people who turn every disadvantage into an opportunity. The Federation thinks they know us. They have studied our history and seen our wars. They think that makes us predictable. They are wrong. Elena looked directly into the camera, knowing that her words would be recorded and shared across human space. We will not fight the way they expect. We will not meet their fleets in open battle, where their technology gives them every advantage. We will fight smart. We will fight dirty if we have to. We will use every trick, every tactic, every innovation our species has ever developed. And we will make them regret the day they decided to threaten humanity. She ended the transmission and turned to her crew. Lieutenant Park, begin pulling tactical data on every Federation ship class we observed. I want to know their weaknesses, their blind spots, their standard operating procedures. Commander Okafor, start running simulations on asymmetric warfare scenarios. If we cannot match their technology, we need to find ways to neutralize it. Lieutenant Chen, begin coordinating with our intelligence networks. I want to know everything. About the Federation's internal politics, their supply lines, their communication protocols. The crew moved to their tasks with renewed purpose. They were afraid Elena could see that, but they were also determined. The Federation had killed 3,000 humans to send a message. Humanity was about to send one back, asymmetric warfare. 3 months into the war, Commodore Elena Torres had learned to sleep in 30-minute intervals. The war ran on a clock that never stopped, and the Federation forces seemed to have unlimited resources. But humanity was adapting in ways the ancient aliens had never anticipated. Commodore, the Ghost Network reports successful deployment in the Tau Ceti system, Commander Okafor announced from the tactical station. Federation sensors are reading 73 human vessels. Actual count is 12. Elena allowed herself a slight smile. The Ghost Network had been her idea, born from desperation and human ingenuity. Automated drones broadcasting false transponder signals, holographic projectors creating phantom ships, communication relays mimicking fleet movements. The Federation's sophisticated sensors could detect every signal perfectly, which made them vulnerable to being overwhelmed with false information. How are they responding? They've diverted 3 heavy cruisers to intercept. That pulls them away from the actual convoy route we're using through the Deneb system. It was working. The Federation had technology that was centuries ahead of humanity's, but they fought like a police force, not an army. Their tactics were built around overwhelming force and clear hierarchies. They expected enemies to mass their forces and fight for territory. Humanity was doing neither. Status on Operation Whisper? Lieutenant Park pulled up a star chart covered in coded markers. We've successfully infiltrated their communication network in 7 sectors. They still don't know we're listening. Intelligence has identified their supply depot locations, fleet rotation schedules, and command communication protocols. Eleanor studied the information. The Federation protected their military assets well, but they had become complacent about their logistical networks. After 12,000 years of peace, they had forgotten that wars were won by supply lines as much as by weapons. Commander Okafor, select 3 of their supply depots. I want small strike teams in and out before they can respond. Don't destroy the supplies, contaminate them. Introduce errors into their navigation software. Make them doubt everything they receive from their logistics network. Psychological warfare, Okafor said with understanding. Make them paranoid about their own systems. Exactly. The Federation expects us to fight with honor and follow rules of engagement. We need to fight smart instead. An alert chimed across the bridge. Commodore, we have a situation developing in the Trappist system. Federation battle group is moving toward our research facility on TRAPPIST-1E. Elena felt her stomach tighten. TRAPPIST-1E housed one of humanity's most important research centers, where scientists were working desperately to reverse engineer captured Federation technology. Losing it would set Earth's technological advancement back by years. How many ships? 23 capital ships plus support vessels. They'll reach TRAPPIST-1E in 14 hours. Eleanor pulled up the tactical display. The research facility had minimal defenses. The Horizon's Edge and her small fleet were 3 days away at maximum speed. By any conventional calculation, the facility was lost. But Elena had stopped thinking conventionally months ago. Lieutenant Chen, what's the current solar activity? In the TRAPPIST system? Chen's fingers flew across her console. TRAPPIST-1 is a red dwarf star. High levels of magnetic activity. Frequent stellar flares causing significant radiation interference. Can we use that? Chen's eyes widened as she understood. The radiation would interfere with their sensors. If we position ships using the star's radiation shadow, they might not detect us until it's too late. Get me Admiral Reeves at TRAPPIST-1E. Emergency channel. Admiral Reeves appeared on the screen, looking exhausted. Behind him, Elena could see researchers frantically packing equipment. Commodore Torres, thank God. We're evacuating non-essential personnel, but we can't get everyone out before the Federation arrives. You're not evacuating, Admiral. You're preparing an ambush. For the next 12 hours, Elena coordinated what would later be called the Battle of TRAPPIST. She pulled ships from 4 different sectors, vessels that had been running harassment operations against Federation logistics. None of them were large warships. Most were converted cargo haulers and mining vessels equipped with improvised weapons. But they had one advantage the Federation did not expect. They understood their own star system intimately. When the Federation battle group entered the TRAPPIST system, their sensors immediately began experiencing interference from the star's radiation. It was normal for operations near red dwarf stars, and their protocols accounted for it. They proceeded toward TRAPPIST-1E in standard formation, confident in their superiority. They never saw the human ships hiding in the radiation shadow on the star's far side. All vessels, this is Torres. Execute on my mark. Remember, we hit fast and we hit the engines. We're not trying to destroy them. We're trying to strand them. The human fleet emerged from behind the star at full acceleration, already firing. Missiles streaked across space, but they weren't targeting the Federation ships' weapons or shields. Every weapon aimed for propulsion systems and faster-than-light drives. The Federation forces reacted quickly, but their standard defensive formation was designed to protect against frontal assaults. The human attack came from an angle they had not anticipated, using the star's gravity well to slingshot to higher velocities than their ships should have been capable of. The first Federation ship lost its engines before it could fully orient its shields. The second and third followed seconds later. Confusion rippled through the Federation formation as ships tried to reposition while simultaneously fighting interference from the star's radiation. Commodore, they're attempting to withdraw, Park reported. Let them try. They'll find their faster-than-light drives don't work so well when we've seeded their escape vectors with disruption mines. It was a tactic humanity had developed out of necessity. They could not match Federation shields or weapons, so they focused on mobility. Keep the enemy trapped in one location, fighting on human terms, and even superior technology struggled to compensate. The battle lasted 6 hours. When it ended, the Federation had lost 8 ships disabled and 5 destroyed. Human casualties were remarkably light. 14 ships damaged, only 2 lost. But the real victory was not the tactical success. It was the message it sent. Within days, intercepted Federation communications showed confusion and concern among their commanders. They had expected humanity to fight desperately and lose quickly. Instead, humans were winning battles through tactics the Federation had never encountered. Ambushes from unexpected angles, attacks on logistics rather than military targets, psychological warfare that made Federation crews doubt their own sensors and systems. Commodore, intelligence has intercepted something you need to see, Lieutenant Park said one evening. He looked troubled as he displayed a translated Federation communication on the main screen. Elena read it twice, hardly believing what she was seeing. It was a message from a Federation military commander to the High Council. Recommend immediate cessation of offensive operations against human space. Our forces are experiencing 34% higher casualty rates than projections. Human tactics do not conform to any known warfare doctrine. They exploit weaknesses in our protocols that have existed for millennia, but were never previously identified. Unit morale declining. Request permission to withdraw to defensive positions and negotiate. Commander Okafor whistled softly. They want to negotiate. 3 months in and they're already looking for a way out. Don't celebrate yet, Elena warned. This is one commander. The High Council won't agree to stop just because we're making the war more expensive than they expected. She was right. 2 days later, the Federation's response came through intercepted channels. The message was brief and cold. Request denied. Increase force commitment. Human resistance must be broken quickly before other species observe and learn from their methods. The stability of the Federation depends on demonstrating overwhelming power. Elena felt ice in her veins. The Federation wasn't going to negotiate. They were going to escalate. And they had resources humanity could not hope to match in a direct confrontation. But something else in that message caught her attention. Before other species observe and learn from their methods, the Federation was afraid. Not of humanity's military power, but of the example they were setting. Lieutenant Chen, pull up everything intelligence has gathered on Federation member species. Political structures, historical grievances, economic relationships. Chen worked quickly, compiling data across multiple screens. What emerged was fascinating. The Galactic Federation was not as unified as it appeared. 7 major species held power, but dozens of minor species lived under their authority. Some of those minor species had joined the Federation willingly. Others had been incorporated through treaties that looked suspiciously like the ultimatum humanity had refused. Find me any species within Federation space that has shown dissent or resistance to Federation authority in the last century. That will take time, Commodore. The Federation controls information tightly. Make it a priority. If the Federation is worried about other species learning from our example, that means there are species ready to learn. Over the following weeks, a new strategy began to take shape. Humanity could not defeat the Federation through military force alone, but they might be able to fracture the Federation from within. The first crack appeared in an unexpected place. A minor species called the Kilari, who provided most of the Federation's food production, suddenly experienced a mysterious crop failure. Their agricultural worlds reported massive losses due to what appeared to be a natural pathogen. The pathogen was not natural. It was engineered by human bio-warfare specialists to target only the modified crops the Quilari grew for Federation consumption. The native Quilari crops were unaffected. When the Federation demanded the Quilari increase production to compensate, the Quilari government politely declined. They needed their resources to feed their own population during the crisis. If the Federation wanted food, they would need to negotiate better trade terms. It was a small act of defiance, but it rippled through Federation space. Other minor species watched to see how the Federation would respond. The response was telling. The Federation threatened sanctions and military intervention, but they stopped short of actual action. They needed the Quilari food production too much to risk destroying it. Humanity had found a weakness. The Federation's power depended on cooperation from dozens of species. If that cooperation began to falter, the entire structure might collapse. Elena authorized a new operation. Human intelligence agents, working through intermediaries, began making contact with dissenting groups within Federation space. They shared technology. They provided tactical advice. Most importantly, they shared information about Federation vulnerabilities that humanity had discovered. Commodore, we're receiving a communication from an unknown source, Park said one morning. Heavily encrypted, but they're using protocols that suggest they know our security procedures. Put it through. The figure that appeared on screen was clearly alien, but not from any species Elena recognized from the Federation's ruling council. Small, with fur that shimmered in colors that shifted between blue and green. Captain Torres, I am Quilari. My people have heard of your resistance. We wish to discuss matters of mutual interest. Elena leaned forward. What kind of matters? The Federation claims they bring peace and prosperity to the galaxy. For 12,000 years we have accepted this claim. But your species has shown us something different. You have shown us that the powerful can be resisted. That technology and age do not guarantee victory. That freedom is worth fighting for. The Kilari paused, their alien features expressing something that might have been hope or determination. We are not warriors like humans, but we control resources the Federation needs. If we were to restrict those resources, if other species were to do the same, the Federation's power would diminish. We wish to coordinate our efforts with yours. Elena felt her heart race. This was more than she had hoped for. This was the beginning of something that could change the entire war. What do you propose? A network of resistance across Federation space, each species contributing what they can. The Federation cannot fight wars on 100 fronts simultaneously. Together we can force them to negotiate from weakness rather than strength. It was not the victory humanity had planned for. It was something better. It was the beginning of a movement that would reshape the galaxy. The fracture 6 months into the war, the Galactic Federation was fracturing. Commodore Elena Torres watched reports flowing in from across known space, each one showing a new crack in the ancient alliance that had ruled the galaxy for 12 millennia. The Zenthir have officially withdrawn their military forces from combat operations. Commander Okafor reported, they're citing humanitarian concerns about the war's direction. That makes 2 Federation species that have pulled out completely. Elena studied the strategic map, where territories were color-coded by allegiance. Blue for human-controlled space, red for active Federation military zones, and a growing expanse of yellow for contested or neutral regions. What prompted the Zenthir withdrawal? We did, Lieutenant Park said, pulling up a communication intercept. Remember Operation Mercy last week? Elena remembered. Human intelligence had discovered that a Quilari colony world was suffering from supply disruptions caused by Federation blockades. The Federation was punishing the Quilari for their defiance by cutting off medical supplies. Children were dying from treatable diseases. Elena had diverted 3 cargo ships from military duties and run the blockade. They delivered medical supplies, food and water purification equipment. The mission had been risky, and they had lost 1 ship to Federation fire. But they had saved thousands of Quilari civilians. More importantly, they had broadcasted the entire operation across every communication channel they could access. Within hours, populations across Federation space watched human ships risking destruction to deliver humanitarian aid to an alien species that had no formal alliance with Earth. The contrast with the Federation's blockade could not have been starker. The Zenthir civilian government saw the broadcasts, Park continued. Their population erupted in protests. They were demanding to know why they were fighting a war to subjugate species that showed more compassion than their own leadership. The Zenthir Military Council tried to suppress the protests, but it spread too quickly. Eventually, they had no choice but to withdraw from the war or face civil unrest. Elena felt a complex mix of emotions. She was glad the strategy was working, but the cost gnawed at her. Lieutenant Maya Chen had died piloting that supply ship through the blockade. 23 other humans had died with her. They had given their lives not fighting the enemy, but helping children from a species most humans had never met. Chen's sacrifice mattered, Okafor said quietly, reading Elena's expression. The Federation wants this war to be about human aggression and danger. Every time we show mercy, every time we help instead of hurt, we prove them wrong. How is the Federation responding to the Zenthir withdrawal? They're scrambling. Internal communications show the High Council in emergency session. They're losing control of the narrative. More concerning for them, they're losing species that provide critical military resources. The Zenthir manufactured most of their antimatter containment systems. Elena nodded slowly. This was the real war now. Not battles between fleets, but a struggle for the hearts and minds of billions of beings across the galaxy. Humanity was outmatched in ships and technology, but they were winning the war of ideas. Commodore, incoming transmission from Admiral Chen on Earth. Priority 1. Admiral Chen's face appeared on screen. Behind her, Elena could see the Strategic Command Center on Earth, busier than ever. Elena, we have a situation. Intelligence has identified a major Federation military buildup near the abandoned Terminus sector. Energy signatures suggest they're activating ancient weapons systems. Elena felt her blood run cold. The Terminus sector was home to artifacts from a civilization that predated even the Federation. The weapons there were poorly understood, but known to be devastatingly powerful. What kind of weapons? Planet killers. Maybe worse. Our best analysis suggests they're preparing to deploy something called a cascade device. It generates a chain reaction that can sterilize an entire solar system. They're going to use it against Earth. That's our assessment. They're losing the political war, so they're planning to win through terror. Destroy Earth and the human resistance collapses. Other species will be too afraid to continue defying Federation authority. Elena's mind raced through calculations. The Terminus sector was deep in Federation space, heavily defended. Any attack would require committing most of humanity's available forces. If they failed, Earth would be defenseless. How long until the weapon is operational? 72 hours, maybe less. I need to take the fleet into Federation territory. We might not be able to bring everyone back, but we have to try. Agreed. But Elena, there's another complication. Our Quilari contacts report that several Federation species are discussing intervention. Not on the Federation's side, on ours. Elena blinked in surprise. They would openly fight against the Federation. Some are considering it. The footage of Operation Mercy pushed public opinion in our favor across multiple worlds. But their governments are hesitant. If we succeed in stopping the cascade device, it might convince them to act. If we fail, they'll remain silent. No pressure then, Elena said with dark humor. Within 12 hours, Commodore Torres had assembled a strike force of 40 ships. It was everything humanity could spare without leaving their colonies completely defenseless. The crews knew the stakes. Many recorded messages for their families, understanding they might not return. The Horizon's Edge led the formation as they jumped into Federation space. Using coordinates provided by Quilari intelligence agents, they emerged from faster-than-light travel at the edge of the Terminus sector. Sensors are detecting massive energy signatures, Park reported. The cascade device is active. They're ahead of schedule. Any defensive forces? 30 Federation ships in orbit around the weapon platform. Configuration suggests they're expecting us. Elena studied the tactical display. 30 ships was more than her force could handle in direct combat. The Federation might be losing the political war, but they still had military superiority when they could concentrate their forces. This is going to require everything we've learned. Commander Okafor, deploy the Ghost Fleet. I want them to think we have 100 ships. Lieutenant Park, launch disruption drones along these vectors. Jam their communications and targeting systems. Lieutenant Chen, begin broadcasting our assault on all frequencies. I want every civilian in Federation space watching this. Commodore, broadcasting our position will also tell the Federation exactly where we are. I know. But this isn't just about stopping the weapon. It's about showing the galaxy what we're fighting for. If we're going to die here, let's make sure everyone knows why. The battle began with human ships emerging from multiple angles, the Ghost Fleet multiplying their apparent numbers. Federation forces attempted to coordinate a response, but human jamming systems wreaked havoc with their communications. Ships that had relied on perfect information sharing for millennia suddenly found themselves operating blind. The Horizon's Edge drove toward the weapon platform at maximum acceleration. Federation ships moved to intercept, but human forces peeled off in pairs, engaging the defenders and pulling them out of position. We're taking heavy casualties, Okafor reported grimly. The destroyer Valiant is gone. Perseverance is venting atmosphere. New Dawn has lost engines. Keep pushing. We have to reach that platform. The main screen showed the cascade device growing larger as they approached. It was a massive structure of unknown technology, pulsing with energy, that made human senses scream warnings. Around it, Federation ships fought desperately to defend their ultimate weapon. Then something unexpected happened. New ships appeared on sensors, emerging from faster-than-light travel. Elena's first thought was that Federation reinforcements had arrived. But the IFF signatures were wrong. Commodore, those are Quilari vessels. And Cynthia. They're broadcasting on all frequencies, saying they stand with humanity against genocide. Eleanor watched in astonishment as 24 ships from neutral species entered the battle, engaging Federation forces. They were not military vessels. Most were converted cargo ships and civilian craft. But they had come anyway, all ships. This is Torres. Focus on the weapon platform. Our allies will handle the defensive fleet. The Horizon's Edge raced past burning Federation ships, dodging fire from automated defenses. The platform loomed ahead, its energy signatures building toward critical levels. "The device is beginning its activation sequence," Park shouted over the alerts. "If we don't shut it down in the next 10 minutes, it will fire." "Ram it," Elena said quietly. The bridge fell silent. "Commodore?" Okafor asked. "You heard me. Plot a collision course. Full speed. If we can't shut it down, we'll destroy it the old-fashioned way." "Elena, that's suicide." Admiral Chen's voice came through from Earth. "The entire crew will be lost. Better 40 of us than 10 billion on Earth." Elena activated the ship-wide intercom. "All hands, this is the captain. I am ordering all non-essential personnel to the escape pods. You have 5 minutes to evacuate. Those who stay, I'm sorry. But this is the only way." Around the bridge, her crew looked at each other. None of them moved toward the escape pods. "With respect, Commodore," Commander Okafor said, "we're all essential personnel, and we're staying." Elena felt tears threatening to break through her composure. She nodded, unable to speak. The Horizon's Edge accelerated toward the Cascade device. Federation ships attempted to intercept, but the Allied vessels kept them occupied. Energy readings from the platform reached critical levels. 30 seconds to impact, Park counted down. Then Lieutenant Park's console erupted with new data. "Wait, I'm detecting a signal from inside the platform. It's broadcasting Federation security codes. Someone is sabotaging it from within." On the main screen, the Cascade device's energy buildup suddenly collapsed. Internal explosions rippled across its surface as critical systems failed. "Who did that?" Elena demanded. A new communication channel opened. The face that appeared was Federation, one of the crystalline beings who had delivered the original ultimatum to humanity. "This is Technical Director Kelmar. I am a scientist forced to work on this weapon. What the High Council ordered us to build violates every principle of civilized conduct. I could not allow it to be used. Many of us could not allow it." The transmission cut to show dozens of Federation scientists evacuating the platform in escape pods. "Captain Torres, the moral courage your species has shown has inspired us to find our own courage. The Federation has become everything it once fought against. That must change." The Cascade device tore itself apart in a series of explosions that lit up the Terminus sector. The weapon that would have destroyed Earth became nothing more than expanding debris. Around the platform, Federation forces began surrendering. The ships that had come from neutral species to help humanity circled protectively, ensuring safe withdrawal. "Casualties?" Elena asked quietly. 8 ships lost, 17 damaged. "But Commodore, we won. And it wasn't just us. When species across the galaxy saw what we were trying to stop, they chose to help. The Federation is fracturing." Elena watched the debris field spread across space, thinking about the scientists who had sabotaged the weapon from within, about the Quillari and Zenthir who had risked their ships to help, about her crew who had been ready to die to protect Earth. "This is about more than survival now," she said. "We're building something new, a galaxy where power doesn't mean the right to dominate, where compassion matters more than age or technology, where every species has a voice." "You think the Federation will accept that?" Okafor asked. "They won't have a choice. The old order is dying. We're going to help build what comes next." A new order. The peace negotiations began 3 months after the Battle of Terminus. Commodore Elena Torres stood in the observation deck of Unity Station, a massive structure hastily built in neutral space to host the historic gathering. Through the vast windows, she could see hundreds of ships from dozens of species. The old Galactic Federation was dissolving, and something new was being born. "They're ready for you, Commodore," Lieutenant Park said quietly. He looked uncomfortable in his dress uniform. Like Elena, he was more accustomed to combat operations than diplomacy. Elena nodded and made her way to the main conference hall. The room was enormous, designed to accommodate the diverse forms of galactic species. Crystalline beings stood beside aquatic creatures in specialized environment tanks. Insectoid races conversed with mammals from worlds humanity had never visited. And in the center of it all, the remnants of the old Federation High Council sat in a cluster, looking diminished and defensive. Admiral Chen from Earth stood at the human delegation's position. She nodded to Elena as she approached. "The Council has agreed to most of our terms," Chen whispered, "but they're balking at the war crimes tribunals. They claim sovereign immunity. No immunity for genocide, Elena said firmly. That's not negotiable. The species who authorized the Cascade device need to face justice. The session began with Archon Vortex, leader of the crystalline Vacros species, attempting to maintain what remained of Federation authority. The alien's crystalline form seemed duller than when Elena had first seen it months ago. The proposed restructuring is unnecessary, Vortex argued. The Federation system has maintained peace for 12,000 years. What humanity calls oppression, we call stability. What you call tyranny, we call guidance. Elena stepped forward before the human delegation could stop her. She had not been scheduled to speak, but something in Vortex's words ignited a fury she could no longer contain. You call the murder of 3,000 civilians at Kepler 186F guidance? You call attempting to destroy Earth with a planet-killer weapon stability? With respect, Archon, your system maintained peace by threatening anyone who disagreed with you. That is not peace. That is fear. The chamber erupted in whispered conversations across dozens of species. Vortex's crystalline surface flickered with colors that Elena's briefing materials said indicated anger. Humans are young and do not understand the complexities of galactic governance. You have been in space for less than a century. We have maintained order for millennia. Then you have been wrong for millennia, Elena shot back. Age does not grant wisdom automatically. My species spent 10,000 years fighting each other before we reached the stars. We know what tyranny looks like because we have practiced it on ourselves. We also know what freedom looks like because we have fought for it repeatedly throughout our history. A new voice entered the discussion. It came from Representative Thelora of the Quilari, the species whose crop failure had been humanity's first act of covert warfare against the Federation. The Commodore speaks truth that many of us have been afraid to voice. The Federation promised protection and prosperity. What we received was control and exploitation. We were told we were junior partners. In reality, we were subjects with no real voice in our own governance. More species began speaking up. The Zenthia representative described how Federation economic policies had impoverished their resource-rich worlds while enriching the core Federation species. The insectoid Krigstar told of how their cultural practices had been suppressed as primitive. The aquatic Thelonus described environmental regulations that benefited Federation species while damaging their ocean worlds. One by one, the subject species of the Federation shared grievances that had been building for centuries. Humanity's resistance had not just inspired them. It had given them permission to speak truth to power for the first time in generations. Vortex attempted to respond, but the voices grew louder. The old Federation had ruled through the illusion of unanimous consent. That illusion was shattering. Order! A new voice rang out, powerful and commanding. It came from another member of the old High Council, a reptilian being named Sarketh. Unlike Vortex, Sarketh did not look defensive. The alien looked thoughtful. Perhaps, Sarketh said slowly, we have been wrong. The chamber fell silent. One of the original Federation founders was admitting error. I have watched the human war with great interest, Sarketh continued. I watched them fight with inferior technology and win through innovation. I watched them show mercy when they could have shown cruelty. I watched their Captain Chen sacrifice her life, delivering medicine to Quilari children who were not her species, not her responsibility, not her concern in any way except that they were suffering and she could help. Sarketh looked directly at Elena. Commodore Torres, you said we have been wrong for millennia. I believe you may be correct. We built the Federation after a series of devastating wars. We were so determined to prevent future conflict that we created a system where dissent was impossible. We confused control with peace. We forgot that true stability comes from justice, not domination. Vortex turned on Sarketh. You would betray everything we built? You would let these young species tear down the order that has kept the galaxy safe? Safe for whom? Sarketh replied. The Quilari were not safe when we blockaded their medical supplies. The humans were not safe when we tried to destroy their homeworld. We have become the very thing we created the Federation to prevent. We have become tyrants, the words hung in the air. For the first time since the conference began, the old High Council was divided. Over the following weeks, the negotiations intensified. The structure that emerged was unlike anything the galaxy had seen before. The old Federation would dissolve completely. In its place, A new interstellar assembly would form with equal representation for all species, regardless of age or technological development. No species would have veto power. No species would be subject to another's authority without consent. War crimes tribunals would be established. The leaders who had ordered the attack on Kepler 186f would face justice. Those who had authorized the Cascade device would stand trial. Even Archon Vortex, despite protests of sovereign immunity, would answer for decisions made in the name of the Federation. But the most controversial element was the proposal Elena herself had drafted late one night. Frustrated with the slow pace of negotiations, "We call it the Mercy Clause," Eleanor explained to the full assembly. "Any species or individual can invoke it once per generation. If a decision by the assembly threatens genuine harm to a species or population, they can demand a full review by an independent tribunal. The assembly's decision can be overturned if the tribunal finds the harm unjustified. That will paralyze decision-making," a delegate from the Shardkai objected. "Every ruling will be challenged." "Good," Elena said firmly. "If a decision cannot withstand scrutiny and criticism, perhaps it should not be made. The old Federation made decisions in secret and enforced them through threat. This new system will be messy and slow and frustrating. It will also be just." Admiral Chen touched Elena's arm. "You are asking species who have ruled the galaxy for 12,000 years to accept that they might be wrong, that their power does not grant them rightness." "Yes," Elena said simply, "because that is the truth humanity learned through blood and suffering. Power and wisdom are not the same thing. Age and correctness are not equivalent. The strong can be wrong, the ancient can be foolish, and the young can be right." The vote on the Mercy Clause was closer than Elena had hoped. It passed by a margin of just 8 votes out of the 247 species represented. But it passed. 6 months after the peace conference began, the new Interstellar Assembly officially formed. Unity Station became its permanent home, a symbol of cooperation built from conflict. Elena stood once again at the observation deck, watching the departure of ships carrying delegates back to their homeworlds. Beside her, Commander Okafor looked exhausted but satisfied. "We did it," Okafor said. "Against every rational prediction, humanity survived and helped reshape the galaxy." "We did more than survive," Elena corrected. "We proved that fear does not have to rule. That compassion can be as powerful as weapons. That the galaxy is big enough for everyone if we stop trying to control each other." A soft alert chimed. Elena pulled out her personal communicator to see a message from Earth. It was from the United Earth Assembly, offering her a new position. Not as a military commander, but as Earth's first ambassador to the Interstellar Assembly. She considered it for a long moment. Elena had joined Earth's space program to explore, to discover, to build bridges between humanity and whatever they found among the stars. War had interrupted that dream, but perhaps now she could return to it. "Will you accept?" Okafor asked, reading her expression. "Someone has to make sure the Assembly lives up to its ideals. Someone who remembers what we fought for." Below them, a new ship was docking at Unity Station. It bore markings from the Vakros homeworld, but its configuration was different from the military vessels Elena had faced during the war. This was a civilian transport carrying students. Young Vakros coming to study at the new Interstellar University, being established on Unity Station. They would study alongside human students, Kilari researchers, Zenthir engineers. Species that had been enemies months ago would now learn from each other. "There is something I have been thinking about," Okafor said quietly. "The Federation lasted 12,000 years by preventing change. How long will our new system last?" Elena smiled. "Hopefully not as long. The moment any system becomes unchangeable, it becomes tyranny. Our new galaxy needs to keep evolving. Keep questioning, keep improving. That is what makes it free." A message came through on the station-wide network. The first session of the Interstellar Assembly was convening. Representatives from across the galaxy were gathering to address their first official agenda: establishing trade agreements, creating scientific exchange programs, and perhaps most importantly, writing a universal declaration of rights that would apply to all sapient beings. Elena made her way to the assembly chamber. As she walked through Unity Station's corridors, she passed members of dozens of species. Some nodded respectfully. Others looked at her with curiosity or suspicion. A few smiled in ways that transcended species barriers. In the assembly chamber, Eleanor took her position among the other delegates. The chamber was designed so that no species held a position of prominence. Everyone could see everyone else. Everyone could be heard. The first speaker was Sarketh, the reptilian elder who had broken with the old Federation leadership. We gather today not as rulers and subjects, but as equals. We come from different worlds, breathe different atmospheres, think different thoughts. But we share one truth. We all deserve to exist freely, to grow without oppression, to reach for the stars without fear. Sarketh paused. Looking around the chamber at the assembled species, humanity taught the galaxy a lesson we had forgotten. They taught us that youth does not mean weakness, that difference does not mean danger, that resistance to injustice is not aggression but courage. We owe them thanks, but more than that, we owe them action. We must build a galaxy worthy of the sacrifice they made. The chamber filled with sounds of agreement across dozens of languages and forms of communication. Elena stood when her turn came to speak. She had prepared remarks, carefully diplomatic words approved by Earth's government. She ignored them. I am Commodore Elena Torres of Earth. 1 year ago, my species received an ultimatum from the Galactic Federation. Submit or be destroyed. We chose neither. We chose to fight for our right to exist as free beings. That fight cost us dearly. We lost ships, colonies, and thousands of lives. She looked directly at the former Federation delegates. But we also gained something precious. We gained allies who chose justice over obedience. We gained the respect of species who saw past their government's propaganda. We gained proof that the galaxy is ready for change. Elena's voice grew stronger. The war is over, but our work is just beginning. We have torn down the old order. Now we must build something better. Not a system based on who is strongest or oldest or most advanced. A system based on mutual respect, shared prosperity, and the recognition that every sapient being has value simply by existing. She paused, gathering her thoughts. There will be challenges ahead. Species that disagree fundamentally on values and beliefs must find ways to coexist. Resources must be shared fairly. Conflicts must be resolved without violence. Some days we will fail. Some decisions will be wrong. But we will face those challenges together as equals, with voices that all deserve to be heard. Eleanor sat down to silence. Then slowly the chamber filled with sounds of approval, not just from humanity's allies, but from species across the spectrum of galactic civilization. The session continued for hours, addressing practical matters of governance and economics. Elena participated where appropriate, mostly listening and learning. This was new territory for humanity, and there was much to understand about galactic civilization beyond the military conflicts. As the session concluded, a young Quillari approached Elena. The alien's fur shifted colors in patterns Elena's translator said indicated nervousness. Ambassador Torres, I wanted to thank you. My sibling was on the colony world, where your Captain Chen delivered medical supplies. The medicine you brought saved many lives. My sibling was one of them. Elena felt emotion tighten her throat. Captain Chen gave her life making that delivery. I will tell her family that her sacrifice continues to matter. Will you tell them something else? The Quillari asked. Tell them that because of her courage, my sibling is studying to become a doctor, so that next time we can save ourselves and help others. Your Captain Chen did not just save lives, she inspired us to be better. After the Quillari departed, Elena made her way to a quiet corner of the station. She accessed the memorial database Earth had created for those lost in the war. Lieutenant Maya Chen's face appeared, young and smiling in her uniform photo. Elena added a note to Chen's file. Your mercy proved more powerful than any weapon. A Quillari child lives because of you and will spend their life helping others. You changed the galaxy, Maya. Rest well. The months that followed saw the new interstellar assembly tackle increasingly complex challenges. Trade disputes arose between species with incompatible economic systems. Environmental regulations had to accommodate beings who thrived in conditions others found lethal. Cultural practices of some species offended the deeply held beliefs of others. It was messy and frustrating, and sometimes seemed impossible. It was also the most important work Elena had ever done. One evening, nearly a year after the Assembly's formation, Elena received a private communication from Earth. Admiral Chen appeared on the screen, looking older but at peace. Elena, I wanted you to hear this directly from me. The United Earth Assembly has voted to begin demilitarization. We will reduce our fleet to pre-war levels over the next 5 years. The resources will be redirected to exploration, science, and development. Elena felt a wave of relief. The Assembly supports this, overwhelmingly. The citizens of Earth have seen enough war. They want to return to what we originally hoped to do among the stars. Discover, learn, build. What about security? There are still species that resent humanity's role in reshaping the galaxy. The Assembly's Mutual Defense Pact will handle that. If any species threatens another, all members respond together. It is not perfect, but it is better than every species maintaining fleets built for conquest. After the call ended, Elena stood once more at her favorite observation point on Unity Station. The view never failed to move her. Ships from hundreds of worlds coming and going in patterns of peaceful cooperation. She thought about the journey that had brought her here. From the horizon's edge, exploring empty systems, to commanding fleets in desperate battles, to now working in halls of diplomacy and compromise. Commander Okafor found her there. He had remained with Elena as her military attaché, though there was little military work to do now. The Vakros delegation wants to meet with you, Okafor said. Privately, Elena raised an eyebrow. The Vakros had been the driving force behind the old Federation's aggression toward humanity. Relations remained tense despite the peace. She met the Vakros delegates in a small conference room. 3 crystalline beings stood waiting, their surfaces refracting light in patterns that indicated discomfort. Ambassador Torres, the lead Vakros, began. We come with a request that is difficult for my species to make. We wish to ask for your help. Elena gestured for them to continue. The Vakros worlds are experiencing civil unrest. Young Vakros question the old ways. They have watched humans achieve in decades what took us millennia. They ask why we cling to traditions that clearly fail to create the peace we claim to maintain. Our society is fracturing. The Vakros paused. We need guidance on how to change, how to adapt, how to rebuild when everything we believed has been proven wrong. Humans have experienced this. Your history shows repeated instances of civilizations restructuring themselves after discovering their foundations were unjust. We need to learn from your experience. Elena sat back, considering. 6 months ago, she would have found the request absurd. The Vakros asking humans for cultural guidance would have seemed like a cruel joke. But looking at the 3 aliens before her, she saw genuine distress. They were beings whose entire worldview had collapsed. They needed help, and they had humbled themselves enough to ask for it from the species they had tried to destroy. I will help, Elena said, but understand change is painful. Your young Vakros are right to question. Your old Vakros will resist. There will be conflict. But if you are truly committed to building something better, humanity will share what we have learned. The lead Vakros's surface rippled with colors that indicated gratitude. We will face whatever pain is necessary. The alternative is to remain as we were, and that is no longer acceptable. Over the following years, Elena watched the galaxy transform. The change was slow and imperfect. Conflicts still arose. Species still clashed over resources and beliefs. But the tools for resolution had changed. War was no longer the first option. Dialogue, negotiation, and compromise became the default approaches. Human colonies continued to expand, but now with cooperation from neighboring species rather than competition. Scientists from different worlds collaborated on research that benefited everyone. Cultural exchanges became common, with beings from different civilizations learning to appreciate perspectives utterly unlike their own. The war crimes tribunals concluded after 3 years. Some former Federation leaders were imprisoned. Others, like Archon Vortex, died during their trials. The proceedings were painful but necessary. The galaxy needed to see that even the powerful could face consequences for their actions. On the 5th anniversary of the Interstellar Assembly's formation, a ceremony was held at Unity Station. A monument was unveiled, honoring all who had died during the war. Human names were engraved alongside Kilari, Zenthir, and even Federation soldiers who had defected rather than follow unjust orders. Elena stood before the monument, reading names she recognized. Maya Chen was there. So were thousands of others, who had given everything for a galaxy they would never see. Admiral Chen attended the ceremony, now fully retired from military service. She stood beside Eleanor as speakers from dozens of species paid tribute to the fallen. "Do you think they would be proud of what we built?" Chen asked quietly. Elena considered the question. "I think they would see how much work remains, how many problems we have not solved, how imperfect our solutions are." "That sounds like a no. Then I think they would roll up their sleeves and get to work making it better, because that is what humans do. We do not expect perfection. We expect progress, and we are willing to fight for it. Not just with weapons, but with ideas, compassion, and the stubborn refusal to accept that things cannot improve." The ceremony concluded with a moment of silence, observed across the entire galaxy. For 1 minute, billions of beings across hundreds of worlds stopped their activities and remembered the cost of the freedom they now enjoyed. As the silence ended, Elena returned to her office. There was work to do. A trade dispute to mediate, a scientific exchange program to approve, a new species making first contact that needed guidance on joining the assembly. The galaxy continued turning. Life went on. And somewhere among the stars, on a small blue world called Earth, children looked up at the night sky and dreamed of what they might find among those distant lights. They would find challenges and wonders. They would find allies and rivals. They would find that the galaxy was vast and strange, and full of beings utterly unlike themselves. But they would also find that humanity had earned its place among the stars. Not through conquest or domination, but through courage, compassion, and the unwavering belief that all beings deserved freedom. Elena Torres smiled as she began her next task. The war was over. The real work of building a better galaxy had begun, and humanity would face that challenge the same way they had faced every challenge throughout their history. Together, with determination, creativity, and hope that tomorrow could be better than today. The galaxy had learned to fear humanity's wrath. Now it was learning to appreciate humanity's wisdom. The lesson was incomplete, would perhaps always remain incomplete, but it was progress, and for humans, progress was enough. If you enjoyed the chaos and power of humanity's vengeance, don't forget to smash that like button. Drop a comment below and tell us, how do you think humanity will strike back next? Make sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell so you never miss a moment of this epic HFY saga. Humanity's fight for survival is just beginning, and you won't want to miss the next chapter. Join the fight today